Hi everyone, I'm going to do a short video on how to work out the standard deviation. I'll use this past paper question, which is from a 2018 paper 2, and it's question 5. So, it says here, a farmer's market took place one weekend. Stall holders were asked to record the number of customers who visited their stall. The number of customers who visited 6 of the stalls on Saturday were as follows: 120, 126, 125, 131, 130 and 124. You need to calculate the mean and standard deviation of the number of customers. So, I have started you off on the next slide with the standard deviation table, but you should try your best to memorise this, and after a lot of practice you'll know what 3 columns to set up when you're doing questions like these. So your first column would be your X, and that is your initial numbers given in the question. The second column is your X subtract X bar. That means your value subtract the mean. And then your third column is just the second column squared. So if you got an answer of 3 there, 3 squared would be 9. But let's go back to our question. Calculate the mean and standard deviation. So let's do some working to get the mean first. Now this is in a calculator paper, paper 2. So, you will still want to show some working. So if I was to do working here on this page, my working is just going to be 120 plus 126 plus 125 plus the rest of the numbers. There are 6 numbers there. So to calculate the mean, you add up all the numbers, then you divide by the total amount of numbers. So I shall do this in the calculator as you would in a main exam. These questions do take a while, but they're worth a lot of marks, so you want to make sure you take your time and get full marks. Sorry, let me go back. Yeah, 126 is the mean. That was the division by 6 as well. So if the mean is 126, I am going to store that information here. That the mean is 126. We've worked that out. Now, the numbers given to me in the question are going to go into my X column, but I like to write them out in order from smallest to largest, just in case I've got any doubles. It would mean that I'd have less working to do in the rest of the table. So, I'm going to start off then with 120. That was the smallest. Then it was 124. Then 125. 126, 130, sorry about my writing, it's not the neatest, then 131. So the mean was 126, so in this second column I have to do X minus X bar, so I have to do 120 minus 126. And I have to write my answer into this column here. So you get a calculator, but you can do this in your head. That's -6. Okay. Now -6 squared is the working you're doing in the last column. Now that's 36. I like to do the working all in one row. I'm going to just make this a little bit neater. because that way if you have any difficult numbers in the middle row, then once you've squared them, you can do that on your calculator and write the answer in the next column here. So if you do all of your work in a row, then you don't have to retype anything into your calculator from the middle column. You can just keep doing it row by row. So 124 subtract 126 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4. When you square a negative, it is always going to be a positive, so you shouldn't have any negatives in the last column. 125 subtract 126 is negative 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. 126 subtract 126 is 0. 0 squared is 0. 130 take away 126 is 4. 4 squared is 16. 131 subtract 126 is 5. And then 5 squared is 25. Now the way to check that you have done this correctly is to add up the middle column, and you should always get a 0 in the middle column for your total. So negative 6 add negative 2 is negative 8, then we've got negative 9, then you've got a positive 9 here, so negative 9 plus 9 is 0, so you know you have done that column right. Now we have to add up the last column, so 36 plus 4, you've got 40 plus 1, 41, 57, 57 plus your 25, you've got 82. Okay, now this formula will be given to you in your main exam, the standard deviation formula. So all you need to do is look at the front of the exam paper, look at the main formula list. You can see at the bottom there's a formula. It's the square root of the sum of the last column, x minus x bar all squared, all over n minus 1. Now I'm going to just write at the top here what n is. N was the number in our data set, so the number of numbers. We have 6 numbers in the question. So n equals 6. Therefore, when we substitute into our standard deviation formula, we have the square root of 82, because that was the sum of our last column, the last column being this, x minus x bar all squared. So it's the sum of the last column, which is 82, all over n minus 1. And if n is 6, then n minus 1 is 5. So we'll do this part in the calculator. The square root of 82 divided by 5. Make sure you type it in exactly like this with the large square root. 82 on the top of the fraction on the numerator and 5 on the denominator. That's given you 4.049 ... And I'm going to round that to 2 decimal places. 4.05. Okay, so that question asked us for the mean and standard deviation of the number of customers. Okay, so we've worked out the mean, which was 126. So I might just put my final answer clear at the bottom. The mean is 126. The standard deviation is 4.05. Okay, so that is the answer to part A. And as you go through these slides, you will figure out how to do questions similar to B when you have to make 2 valid comments. I have more examples here on how to do the to comments section. But this video was mainly to show you how to use the standard deviation table. Okay, thank you.